Welcome everyone to this week's News Bits Tonight live stream. If we are connecting and going live, I hope anyway. Your brother doesn't recognize the video format. Anyway, I guess we are getting live, even though maybe my self-compiled Firefox might not be happy right now, although I think it worked earlier, so for some reason. Anyway, does something happen now? Anyway, you get the idea. I hope people tune in for this week's open source and other related IT stuff. And before we start and wait for the audience to connect, a testament to the modern web. Web content here takes more CPU cycles than OBS. Actually, this reminds me that we probably want to check that we are actually not dropping frames here. No, 0 drop frames. And yes, also modern web, I just have here a couple of 13 or so tabs open. And we get here some background load of 125% CPU load. Because the amazement, actually this is more for totaling in Firefox and web content, so we have here more load of background nonsense than actually OBS requires to live stream this out. Just another data point of the state of modern web stuff and such. Let's see, did we even get here someone in the audience already? Slightly imperfect to read, but then it's time to also start, because obviously people want to watch it also without too much delay in the archived on-demand archive. One last double check, maybe we move. Hey, we are streaming with 30 frames per second for some magic reason. Anyway, so welcome everyone again to this News Weeks Tonight. I hope the web view is halfway decent here for you to follow. Starting with LLVM, the new release is out finally, I think slightly delayed if I remember correct, 8.0. And as usual, stuff is new, more optimized and so on. Of course, most of you might still use GCC, the GNU compiler collection or compilation or whatever, and only use LLVM CLang for Mesa for your 3D architecture framework thing, software stack for compiling stuff for the fragment shaders and such, for GPU computing, 3D acceleration, you name it. This is why obviously nowadays LLVM is rather important, although there are people also using this as a C compiler. Of course, mostly Apple also as default in Xcode or only available option right now on Apple, but also Linux people, Linux distributions. As I mentioned the other live stream, unfortunately you can't usually, at least on most architectures, compile the Linux kernel with this, but this would be interesting. I mentioned this in another live stream some days ago. Maybe it would be nice to make a T2 target out of this using CLang, and we would save GCC. Just I tried this already some years ago, just that mostly the Linux kernel, maybe some bootloader like grub2 might not compile right now. So what is new? Hey, it also has non-issues, non-comprehensive list of changes. We will not go through all of them because we want to keep the news mostly slightly streamlined, than not 2 hours. So it's also used for JIT, so you can use it for just-in-time compiler stuff, and there are some packages out there using it. Arch, what do we have here with some initial support for tiny code model, whatever that is doing. Statically defined symbols must live within 1 megabyte of each other, whatever. Hexagon target, what the heck. MIPS target, I realized already it has here improved support for MIPS N32. Maybe we should try this on the SJ Octane another day. Even PowerPC work. but actually IBM is right now quite active there with some Power 8 and 9 and stuff. x86, new AVX50 512F, gather scatter instructions. As you know, x86 stuff can never be too complicated. And LLDB, the debugger, and LLVM based decompiler, also external. Those are external projects. Actually, list is not too long here, but as they write here, non-comprehensive list. So yeah, it's probably time to give it another try, maybe another live stream compiling stuff with T2 there. It's already updated in T2, and the problem is only that now I updated this, I did not test compile all of the stuff like Mesa and AMD GPU, so always the more packages using this can result in regression somewhere. You update this and your 3D stuff doesn't work right anymore, but that is just how it is when you use the same code all over the open source landscape. So next, or did I even close the right? Let's hope so. Then we also have here 19-year-old WinRAR vulnerability leads to over 100 malware exploits. Here the issue is, of course, not only I'm not really a fan of RAR, still really wonder a little bit why people would use it, but there is a new security vulnerability in software used to open zip archives. And the problems, of course, is this kind of stuff is usually used for spam and malware in emails and such, especially people having Windows software installed. And the problems, of course, that so many projects include the source of WinUn or UNRAR. In T2 we also have UNRAR something. And then a lot of packages or products and such use this. And the problems, of course, it's included in virus scanners on Windows and such. So all of those packages, products using the RAR source code have the same security vulnerability. Just as usual, if the same code is recycled all over the place, then you also have the same vulnerabilities, security issues all over the place. No surprise there. And just that you are aware of, and in general a lot of security researchers anyway say that antivirus and such is often not helping for protection and actually increasing the attack surface, because with things like this opening RAR archives behind your back and then having security vulnerabilities is just exactly the stuff that is increasing your attack surface there. Comments in the audience, still not sure how well we are live streaming here. And Dave is asking, LLVM is likely to replace GCC, as I remember reading GCC designers intentionally bet to stop people from extending it to enforce GPL. Well, so GCC design is not intentionally bet, it's just more monolithic and less modular. However, the GCC people with the LLVM ceiling competition changed this some years ago. Now they also have a little bit more plug-in architecture, and I think they even migrated to C++ or some form of light C++. And also to avoid even more people migrating to LLVM. But as usual, it's not often not replacing, as it's an open source landscape. Probably GCC will continue for quite a couple of decades as long as the Free Software Foundation is there. And as I said, right now you can't compile the Linux kernel for most architectures, at least not without patching it. So yeah, it's not being replaced as long as people are using it. And as I said, I will probably take more detailed look into this and try to compile more stuff with T2. As I said, would be nice to have quite some compile time and ISO size, because we need LLVM for the 3D architecture. The problem I have with LLVM is that it also became quite huge. As you have seen, all the architectures and 3D GPU backends making it also super huge. So compiling this, it started as a lean and mean project. In the meantime, it's also quite some huge project. The dragon icon might be quite suitable there, quite some monster. So yeah, this is why I eventually would like to cut down compile and binary size there. Then The next use, of course, what we discussed in my 150 failed Google project live stream earlier, Google Stadia. As I mentioned already, quite some stuff to say there. So Google Stadia, for those who have not heard this is a new, just some day or two announced live streaming early beta in quotes of the future of gaming with a huge question mark. They even write a lot of questions remain unanswered. My take to this, so what this is a Google gaming platform, likely Linux based, I would guess. And apparently I think I read somewhere based on AMD graphic, probably, I think. What is it even here? What is it? Fortnite made around more than 500,000 a month. And so what I want to say to this, I find this complete bullshit. I'm not the greatest gamer, but even as a non-greatest gamer, I would not use it. Even if I would be a gamer, I would use it even less. Here they even write Google is using Linux as operating system. Do they even have their AMD? Maybe, maybe not. And the problem with this is, of course, latency and such. They say here you can game in 4K. So actually there are two problems. The biggest problem for me is that I even see here trivially is input lag and latency. And of course, all gamers hate input lag and latency. And locally you have the milliseconds, obviously, with USB connected, if not wireless connected, Bluetooth and such. But this latency is still local, relatively small. If you don't like Bluetooth for the latency, then certainly you don't like internet connectivity for latency. Even less, they say here, I think somewhere in the presentation, they said they can make up some latency because running the servers on the same, so the server for multiplayer stuff, the server infrastructure on similar servers nearby, apparently reducing quite some latency. However, you should not forget that the server stuff communication does not need to be so fast. There can be a little bit more latency. For example, you probably can get away in your multi-server game, multiplayer game, with updating the enemies not as often. It's certainly more important that even if you do not get updates for your enemies and such enemies and friends over the internet, the latency can certainly be slightly higher than your local latency for turning left and right. This is probably something not so much discussed in articles like this. So even though they make here, of course, big companies always say it's the most amazing, certainly the next big thing, and we are the best and most amazing, and we compensate you for everything. But this certainly, they cannot overcome the limits of physical limits. And as I said, it's certainly with your input lag, of course, it feels completely unacceptable and lagging if you turn left and right and everything has a delay, because certainly all your local input presses left and right and such, jumping and whatnot, shooting and so on, first needs to go to Google servers and back. And this input latency is for sure magnitudes higher than your local connected stuff. And as I said, they write here they can make up for this. Maybe, maybe not. Certainly not, because as I said, you can probably get away updating your enemy movements slightly slower than your local input, like for turning left and right and jumping and such. So I call this complete bullshit. I personally would bet that this is the next Google project that will fail. Certainly a huge investment and gamble here, but I can't see this to work amazingly. Of course, Google can try to surprise me here. And yeah, some updates here, whatever. So I call here bullshit on this. This will not be amazing. This is just another try for a company to cash in here on your gaming habits. And then the next thing is, of course, I personally already have a little bit of a problem with this multiplayer game stuff, that also in my last week's news you had this day one game patch that was already 50 or 80 gigabytes. The problem is also you buy a game today and you might not be able to play it in 10 or 20 years. When your kids want to resurrect it, or you want to play it for nostalgia or something, and then you can't even run your previously purchased game because DRM and you didn't even had this, like with this initial launch day patch there last week, 80 gigs, you probably don't get this. You only have your original media or download or something. You can't even play it. Maybe you can't even activate it anymore because DRM servers and such. So certainly not amazing. And this is more and more of big companies getting away with your property. So you own it, you can't buy it. And just the recurring theme of this kind of companies trying to make as many cents and dollars out of whatever you do. Welcome, by the way, everyone in the audience. Welcome, Danny, Dave. I suspect gaming industry will move to some sort of streaming. Is a comment from the audience from Dave. Sort of streaming probably assets as much like the video music industry want to eliminate piracy. Yeah, and the problem is, as I said, you cannot play this stuff anymore in 10 or 20 years. Of course, most people who just want to do some casual gaming right now don't care. But like with SimCity, we have live stream SimCity, the other 25th or something anniversary edition there, or was it even 30 years? And you more and more probably cannot do this kind of stuff, retro gaming in the future, things like this. And also, so the second big thing is bandwidth in the office. I said we have now for the YouTube streaming also 500 Mbit down and 50 Mbit up. This is of course amazing, but pop out the chat window. What do you mean with it? And at home in Berlin, as I said, we don't live in the office. At home we have other additional internet that also my wife and such are using most of the day when they're not in the office. So there we, of course, I do not want to pay 2 times 500 Mbit. At home we have something much more minimal, 32 Mbit down and some optimal 2 Mbit or something like that up. The result of this is even iTunes, sometimes we buy still, although we are trying on the last legs to get out of the Apple ecosystem, getting out of the Apple ecosystem, but we still, so it can be standalone window. It's already, I have it here. Can this? Anyway, let's not make experiments. Thank you for the tip. We'll try next time or something. Right now it's quite good here. Actually, I was mostly not sure if it's updating. And so even at home with 32 Mbit in the middle of Berlin, we have problems of this iTunes not streaming amazingly. It has interruptions. It is lagging, sometimes stopping. Although I have to admit, sometimes we buy something on the American iTunes store for the English content to become more native English speaker here for many obvious reasons. And not really sure if the German iTunes store is much better or is this a US connection there. But the point is, not all people have the most amazing internet, and we have still amazing internet. My parents, for example, close to Hanover, they have regular DSL. So in Berlin we have cable, TV cable stuff with internet. There's this DOCSIS stuff, and then we have even my parents in a first world country like Germany, and for the last 10 years they only had 16 Mbit, and even this they don't get. So they have like advertised 16 Mbit, but they only got like 11 Mbit or something. Okay, let's try the tip here. Does it really 3 dots? Can you pull? Not really sure. Are you sure this works? Anyway, let's not disturb the live chat. This is actually here, pop out, here, maybe. No, please don't. Let's see what happens. Does something happen? Maybe, maybe not. Where is it now? Okay, whatever. Now we have irritated our chat here. Wherever this went, apparently it went nowhere. Anyway, let's try this another day. This Surface, I actually would have streamed from the Retina MacBook Pro, but the Broadcom wireless is proprietary, binary only, did not work with my latest kernel, and then the microphone also didn't work. So don't buy Apple stuff for Linux and stuff, because not even the microphone input works there, aside this Broadcom binary only shit. So this is why I tested also ThinkPads and Dells and such, because I want to educate and influence more to buy Linux ready and compatible stuff, and also fix stuff on the way left and right wherever we find something and have time to fix something. So yeah, so not only do I call bullshit on the input lag here, I also call bullshit on the bandwidth, because we are in a, okay, actually maybe some countries have even more amazing internet, like Bulgaria also, where they have amazing optical fiber, I heard, and stuff like this. So maybe Germany is not the best first world country for amazing bandwidth or broadband, but I heard also countryside USA is even worse. So much to people streaming there on the countryside in the USA, maybe not. And this is of course only the tip of the iceberg, not to count all the developing countries and such. So And additionally, I would also sometimes play, if I would want to play, which you know probably by now I'm not the greatest gamer, but maybe we game a little bit more on this YouTube channel just for the fun of it. But if I would want to game sometimes, I would game in airplanes where I don't have connectivity, at least not usually. And if I have connectivity, then only a little bit, certainly not here 20 Mbits. I would maybe play a little bit on the beach, on the holiday, on some weekend getaway, and something where the internet might again not be the most amazing, or for example on holiday on roaming, and everywhere the internet is not amazing, so I call here 2 times bullshit on the bandwidth also. And yeah, Slovenia, comments from the audience, Slovenia is getting the fiber. Yeah, as I said, I heard Bulgaria has a very amazing IT company, infrastructure, a lot of IT startups for having a lot of high bandwidth fiber optic connections there. Even in the UK, fiber isn't deployed everywhere, and you get a max of 4 Mbit per second. In Germany, fiber is only in big cities, and then even, for example, in Berlin, at our office, people called, I said at the other live stream, people want to sell me fiber right now, but the cheapest option for fiber is 200 euro a month. Right now we pay a completely cheap 50 something euro for 400 Mbit. I certainly do not pay 200 euro for some fiber if I have 500 Mbit cable. And of course, again, and this 500 Mbit we have only because it's an office, and we only increased it recently for the YouTube upstream, certainly, as I mentioned already. So yeah, and again, this is, you rather better invest into a gaming PC to play local 4K gaming than to stream. Also, if you have multiple people, you have 2 kids and they want to live stream, then your internet is already saturated with one gaming live stream, and you have 2 kids, you can forget this already. And if you have, or if you have a kid and you want to play yourself or whatever, might be the setup there, and things like this. So you're not really taking this off, but leave me in the comments below what you think about this. Danny writes, we are updating it yearly, suburbs are just waiting to switch over. And yeah, and again, this is also, you know, you want to use your bandwidth. Also, cable is a shared medium. So in the office, we even don't get always 500 Mbits because neighbors might also use the shared medium there on the coax wire. So even if you have some kind of bandwidth, and if all in your building are watching iTunes, Netflix, and playing Google Stadia, then certainly this will also not work out. And also, you should not forget that even LTE and 5G is shared medium, which is also what many people often forget. So even there, certainly I would not right now use my bandwidth for gaming over LTE. But when you should keep in mind, when companies advertise 4G and 5G speeds, this is shared with all the people in your local cell. So it's not like you only get this alone. As long as people stream video and Stadia around you, then this is all in the same, all of the bandwidth in the same cellular cell. Just that you might have learned something more right now. Comments from the audience, Danny. Right now I'm using DOCSIS 3.0, yeah, V2 in Berlin. On our cable ISP, the best we could get is 125.6. Yeah, I upgraded over the years. Initially, some years ago in Berlin, Germany, we got the maximum was maybe 200 Mbit. Then it was eventually 400 Mbit. Right now it might be 500 Mbit, maybe right now, or do we already get more? Not sure. Maybe there's something more. Usually I don't take the most expensive and most fast, because anyway, I mostly need the upstream for the YouTube live streaming anyway. Somehow I'm slightly confused here if I close the right tab here. Going to the next news, that by the way, I wonder why this loaded. Somehow it was preloaded, but whatever, loaded again. And 0 drop frames, amazing, of the DOCSIS of my neighbor here, where we are not in Berlin right now. So right now streaming over some French DOCSIS here. Thanks to my shout out to my friendly French neighbor here who gave us their Wi-Fi password. Totally amazing. Love friendly people. So Walmart is reportedly looking into launching their own gaming service. Yay! I'm probably expecting this to be the greatest success in history. I'm already a little bit skeptical about their not the most outstanding overpowered gaming PC stuff. By the way, nothing here is a paid advertisement. But if Google already cannot pull out a successful streaming gaming service, then I really wonder how Walmart of all companies wants to get into the gaming market service here. So it's like everyone needs to do live stream gaming stuff here. Really ridiculous in my opinion. By the way, in my opinion, big companies like this should more often stick to their core market and not try all kind of esoteric nonsense. And I really wonder how they can think this will become successfully. But if they become totally successfully, then they can, of course, are welcome to prove me wrong. But right now I'm neither seeing Google and even less so Walmart. Somehow I have the feeling if Google announces something, then everyone else needs to do the same, or same with Apple. If they announce a notch or cutting the headphone jacks, then somehow everyone else needs to follow. But whatever, you probably get the idea. Then still in the gaming news, and you see we probably more and more become here a gaming channel, and somehow can we close this French advertisement here somehow. And you see we becoming here more and more a gaming news channel. Maybe we also need to live stream games here more. Danny writes more in the audience there. There's no data speed cap. I've talked with ISPs. It's just don't want people to make their own speed on the CMTS. DOCSIS can provide. But you need fiber out, normalize and cable connections like noise. Yeah, I know the local people in Berlin also told me that they could already do more. Like when we had 200 Mbit, they told me already they could do more. And it's also, of course, the backbone. If they need to have a backbone with such a capacity also to multiplex and upstream, downstream all the data of all the million customers. Obviously, quite some total data bandwidth there in the data center backbone. And this is also what I really wonder, that companies forget. They always take this for granted and don't. I have the feeling many people forget the tech that is behind this to make this even happen, especially politicians and other irritated people like this. So coming back, we made the dedicated live stream. We had last week's news. We had this AMD ray tracing in the what was it, Unity or so engine demo, and I speculated because last week's news I forgot to mention a little bit that I wanted to say I'm a little bit skeptical what exactly NVIDIA has there regarding their ray tracing cores, and I made a dedicated, quite successful live stream talking about some details there that I had in mind regarding this. And now it turns out I might have been a little bit on the right track there. So not only is NVIDIA now also announcing that the ray tracing tech will come to older GTX cards. So, wait a second, did they not say they have ray tracing cores in there? So how is this ray tracing tech now coming to older non-ray tracing core cards like the previous older GTX cards? So, could there be something a little bit fishy maybe? Maybe I smelled the right stuff there. And when you read this here further, the summary here is of course a summary of the news article, and so will work on GPUs from the 1060 and up, albeit with some series caveats, and I can't wait to play ray trace, writes Danny. So yeah, so the thing is, so I was already skeptical because I said it makes, in my opinion, not much sense to have this ray tracing cores that are most of the time not doing something if you're not running ray tracing stuff. But the stuff here becomes even fishier than I thought, because as you realized, well, I was not the greatest gamer, but maybe now with the YouTube streaming stuff we become here great gamers. Also, gaming as great as Linus Tech Tips. Amazing shooting ourselves in the foot and such. So what is even more funny, which I did not know, some games like Battlefield 5 will run just fine and deliver better visuals, but also, like, did NVIDIA not, and by the way, this is why I don't like companies like this. I'm already not a fan of NVIDIA for all their keeping their stuff secret. But when you then see, first they sell you the overpriced RTX cards for ray tracing, and then the next month they say, oh, by the way, you can have the ray tracing tech also for the older GPUs, like, seriously? And then, like, not only was Battlefield already not running amazingly on RTX cards, I think just at the edge of 60 frames per second or something, and then some games like Battlefield will run just fine. Like, what do they run? What do they mean with run just fine when the RTX cards were already at the border of running just fine? But okay. But other games like the freshly released Metro Exodus will run at just 18 frames per second at 1440p, obviously an unplayable frame rate. No shit, Sherlock. What a surprise. But so some things to take away here. I think somewhere was here, for example, what was here was written on the other hand. Battlefield, for instance, the tech is only used for things like reflections. So this is, I did not know. So actually Battlefield 5, this demo was actually a little bit of a cheat, using ray tracing tech only for additional visuals like global reflections. On top of that, you can dial down the strength of it so it consumes less computing horsepower. So thank you so much to the amazing ray tracing tech. Smells a little bit like cheating to me here, in my opinion, allegedly. And Metro Exodus, on the other hand, uses ray tracing to create higher realistic global illumination effects, simulating light from the real world. And this is also, so wait a second, so they only use this additionally as an overlay or what? So they still, I did not know this, so apparently maybe this is still rasterizing the whole game stuff, the whole game world with all the regular stuff in the old-fashioned set buffered additional accumulating rasterizing stuff there, and only blending the global illumination lightning effect on top of this is somehow. When I heard ray tracing, I thought they ray trace everything and not only do some global illumination effect on top of this. So some of the whole stuff I expected no less from NVIDIA. I'm not surprised. This is why I constantly warn about company language and advertising and holding back the specs like this. And as I said in the other video, I would much more prefer regular GPU general purpose graphic processing unit stuff that can be used for other stuff like regular computing, neural networks and whatever, than dedicated ray tracing cores that are not of much use for parts of the time. Comments in the audience, what did we get there? Quake, can't wait to get Quake 2 ray traced. Dave, you can already play it, but you get about 30 frames per second. I know, but I'm waiting them to improve the algorithms like driver updates. Yeah, so I really wonder, and this is a problem why I always, so not only do we need to have register level specification to write software like open source stack and such, and our own operating systems if you wanted to, or embedded systems and stuff like TVs and set-top boxes, navigation systems, you name it, but we also need to have this register level specification to really see what is really in there. So I'm still not sure if there are real ray tracing cores in there, or if NVIDIA is using the improved integer units, because was it even written here? NVIDIA explains that the first developing the next gen RTX tech, it found chips using the Pascal tech would be monster sized and consume up to 650 watts. And yeah, here it comes. That is because the older cards lack both the integer cores and tensor cores found on the RTX cards. So it sounds to me a little bit like they use the integer cores also, like I already speculated. I would prefer actually also for other stuff to use more. So I'm totally confused by now what is really ray tracing tech in there, or if they do everything in software kind of on the integer cores and stuff, which I would prefer. But anyway, to me it feels here, in my opinion, allegedly this doesn't feel entirely honest here from NVIDIA. I'm confused. I was already skeptical before, now I'm even more confused. This whole, like, when I hear ray tracing, I expect the whole game to be ray traced, not only some global illumination effects on top of this. So take everything with a grain of salt, and we definitely should call for more honesty in the tech environment, society, companies and news and everything, and question everything much more, and not only copy here the company PR material, because apparently usually this is full of kind of marketing bullshit, and yeah, we need more register specification, reverse engineering. Can't wait to do more on this again. Welcome new people in the audience. Welcome MCPE. And yep, let's and as usual, leave us in the comments below. Totally interested to hear what you think about the whole ray tracing situation. Do you find this is a scam, or do you find this is honest? Do you find it amazing, or do you put a big question mark there? Would be really interesting to hear what you think about this. Next up, non-gaming use. Yay, F5 networks to acquire NGINX for a whopping 670 million deal is about to enable multi-cloud services across environments. And wait a second, why is my chat now flickering? Probably Intel GPU overloaded here with hardware code. So this is for me quite some surprise. Actually, did I click here? Still agree. Bloody nonsense here. Come on already. And I thought NGINX, actually I probably should have opened this before. Let's see, where do we get a new tab? Or it's the end. Let's check our T2 SDE.org website package NGINX. I thought this is a pure lightweight web server kind of thing with Lua integration. There you see I made our Lua, secret Lua UI source video the other time. You see everything is not loading here much despite our DOCSIS cable connection, but waiting for data so much to our bandwidth here or whatever. So comments in the audience, is your extra available for download and is compatible with Debian distros? You have the source on GitHub, you need to compile it yourself, but it is not yet accelerating 3D, and there are a lot of stuff to figure out and get working again. So of course it should work if you compile it from source, but yeah, your mileage may vary and patches are welcome. And I also continued with other stuff because I did not want this channel, we will continue with this also, but I did not want this channel to become a pure PS3 channel, and also I also don't want to do each day RSX hacking. Yeah, actually I think this Intel CPU here, this comes from live streaming on yesteryear's Intel ULV. Not amazingly cooled surface overheating stuff here. So this probably does not load so slow because DOCSIS, but because also should press here the right key, but because Intel CPU. And yeah, this Intel CPU is GPU is apparently completely busy hardware encoding here. And NGINX, as I said in the beginning of the live stream, I would have live streamed with the Retina MacBook Pro if the Broadcom wireless would not be proprietary and the microphone input would work. So don't buy Apple hardware if you want to use it with any reasonable operating system that is not plugged with peakbugs. So yeah, NGINX is a high-performance HTTP and reverse proxy server, and no idea what amazing stuff they have in the meantime that value it at 670 something. This is not the news we are looking at here. Why is this reloading, by the way? We have here quite some gigs of memory, whatever. So modern web, you name it. And yeah, leave me in the comments below what you think about this price, or what NGINX may, probably also the company behind this. But I find this kind of Silicon Valley prices really crazy. I really wonder, either I should sell our exact scan for a couple of millions, or I should make games or other nonsense like lightweight HTTP servers. Imagine some decades ago this was Apache, and now this newcomer NGINX is sold for 670 million. Also, which sane company, I really wonder what is behind this deal, because which sane company would spend 670 million for an lightweight load balancing technology? But yeah, seriously, I'm not really. Yeah, leave me in the comments below what you think about this. I only kept this in the news, not only that you know that this open source NGINX was sold, but also what you think about this kind of pricing. I mean, pretty happy for those guys there. They made quite some money for their work, certainly, but somehow I have the feeling you could implement a load balancing, minimal HTTP web server stuff for less than 670 million, I certainly would do so, but whatever. And I had already on my to-do list to maybe write a small HTTP server in Lua, probably for the test of it, but maybe we do this sometime soon for some live stream or so next to you. Then continuing with more business cloud kind of stuff, is in picking Microsoft Cloud, Volkswagen shows that even car makers have some fear of Amazon, which is of course slightly funny. Just in today's live stream with the nearly 150 failed and killed Google projects, I mentioned that I personally don't use the Google services much for not giving them too much customer data, and now is in the news. Volkswagen apparently has similar issues with cloud services and switches or picked Microsoft Cloud. Not really sure if that is the best pick. I certainly would not think so, but as usual, open to your comments. What is also interesting is that they don't even mention Google here and fear Amazon. Slightly wonder why though. And we had I think we had in yesterday's, and not yesterday's, last week's news, we had this prediction that some predictor there of Tech Oracle predicted that only 3.5 clouds or so will survive. So much to this here, picking even big Fortune 400 or so companies picking one cloud over the other, of fearing someone else of the cloud services. So not only users, also companies, and not really sure what kind of details already some days ago. And whatever, they're working with other automakers, whatever. So yeah, this is this article only underlines the risk what I always mention. Giving your private data to Google and such is of course applies to companies and business just the same. Whatever you make business, whoever you make business with, has your data or parts of your data. And yeah, not really sure if it's also wonder really if it's always so much cheaper or more worthwhile or whatever beneficial to outsource this in the cloud. Not really sure. Maybe leave in the comments below. We also had huge cloud outages, and today we will have today we had 13 news entries, so we need to probably speed up here a little bit. We will have more cloud news, and we will continue to see that outsourcing and using the cloud will often cause problems. And here is just the next. So from one cloud news to the other, you don't need to fear this German. I will just read it in English anyway. So the just regular silent Cloud-Apokalypse here, you can probably guess from the picture, probably quite nicely telling picture here. When cloud services are out and server are defects, then for example, here was the case. This case was Google Safe Browsing System. So you want to browse somewhere, and this central censoring services like safe browsing stuff, of course, will censor all your internet. This is some story of some user calling into this news website here and telling them, hey, I can't log into the Microsoft Cloud. And this was a Microsoft Cloud in Europe. So they did here some investigation. You can, if you want, follow the details. But this was somehow or is somehow related to the European cloud and being slightly different to all the login stuff. So they have their additional sub-level domains like login microsoftonline.de and stuff. And so this automatic AI or sanity checking of Google blocked their access. So you have the cloud service and can't even log in because your central censorship service is not allowing you to. And often it's not even not often, but sometimes it's not even technical outage, which also happens already. We had many cloud outages over the years. People pressing the wrong button, power is out, a diesel generator not starting, stuff like this. People driving with a forklift into some hub, central hub or power distribution hub thing and stuff. So here, all your central Google. Anyway, I'm not the greatest fan. As I said in my earlier live stream today, I'm not a great fan of centralized Google services, giving them all my data, where I surf, where I log in. Doesn't really feel safe to me. And then on top of this, just the picture is probably worth more than 1,000 words. And what do we have here? Cloud is more expensive to host, however, easy to deploy, etc is easier. Right, Dave. And if you're running a Microsoft web stack, it's travel to move to Azure. Additionally, if you don't have to employ expensive dev or people who trolling and drag and drop. And yes, also I agree, for your local IT services you need to have local people, but maybe in the long run, especially German automakers or other automakers in the world want to get also into self-driving cars, electric cars and stuff, and maybe you need to have some good IT people anyway. I don't want to say that the same artificial intelligence people should run the cloud service, but you need to have some good service, and maybe it's worthwhile also to educate and train some local people. In case something goes wrong, you need them anyway. If your cloud goes down or someone presses the wrong button and all your data is away, then yeah, doesn't help you much if it was easier to deploy in the beginning. Also, I read of startups who really racked up their Amazon AWS compute bill, so I read even some startups could not afford backups or backup services because the Amazon AWS compute bill was already so high that they couldn't afford additional instances or backup instances and such. So yeah, maybe often it is maybe additionally, at least as some additional tier in between, long time more viable to host stuff yourself, and especially if you want to remain a globally leading company. Danny also wrote earlier, I would like to switch over to NGINX from Apache, but I still have to learn how to configure it properly. Yeah, the problem is also the reason we still run Apache is because we have Subversion. Not really sure if the Subversion version control plugin has other backends for other web services. Maybe I should try to switch our more static data center services over to something else, but I will definitely probably sometime soon implement an own proof of concept Lua web server just for the fun of it. Let's see how this is going. Maybe even let it run somewhere for some performance test and stability and security test on some non-primary important website or so. The more stuff the merrier. I have the feeling we will do a lot of fun stuff here on this channel in the future, especially as more of an audience we build ourselves up here. And yeah, I think we have more cloud news later. Let's see, what did we have? Oh yeah, right, more cloud news, because you can never have enough cloud news. Also from quite some from Slashdot of all websites. By the way, Slashdot I think I follow for 20 years, probably since 1998. But I think probably all of you agree that it's not as amazing as it was 20 years ago. A little bit of a sellout as well. But maybe leave in the comments below what you think about this. And as usual, nothing here is a paid advertisement, so just picking some random news where it was newsworthy. So are large cloud providers a threat to open source vendors? This is somehow quite the theme of my live stream the other week regarding how to earn a living, or actually not, with open source, the problem that we faced. If you have not watched this, maybe you want to watch this, especially if you are getting into this field or have similar challenges. And this is also a little bit on the topic, how can we make all this stuff greater again, earn ourselves more of a living with open source. And the funny thing in this one here is that they compare here cloud providers, certainly like Google and Amazon and Microsoft and such. And here it's also written Amazon, Google, Microsoft, just as I meant. The fear of being overpowered by those in the commercial open source vendors, probably, I guess they mean here Red Hat and stuff, Red Hat SUSE and Canonical of Ubuntu fame, I think. Quite some days since I read this. And this is similar, of course, it's not entirely the same. The problem that I mentioned is all the open source developers like myself and friends and family all over the world not getting much income of all their open source work. Of course, the NGINX people have been lucky selling themselves for 670 million, but not everyone is selling their stuff for 600 million. And it's also nice to have a regular living the years before you sell yourself for 670 million. And this is just exactly the same thing, just not for regular developers, but for the companies that currently do the open source commercial support stuff. And someone commented in the last live stream where I live streamed regarding open source business and making a living out of this, someone commented the salary of Linus Torvalds is actually not some 100,000, but with additionally, so the base salary, you can go to the live stream of myself there, of this other live stream. I think his total salary, including retirement benefits, is over $1 million, which I find crazy. So much going from, I wonder if he earns less than the managers of the Linux Foundation. He apparently earns more than 1 million, allegedly, if that document is true that someone posted there. You see here this browser is totally slow with so much to don't buy into this ultra low voltage tablets. You will regret this. The performance is not amazing. As you see, very few CPU cycles are left here for actual doing something else than hardware encoding here. And let's see, can we, even this takes a while to be able to click on this link. And for all the donations to the Linux Foundation, I think most of the donations to the Linux Foundation come from big companies like Oracle, IBM, Microsoft, you name it, which is of course also ironic. I think that Microsoft is now part of donating there to the Linux Foundation, or even member of the Linux Foundation for all the Linux subsystem and maybe cloud stuff. Where is T2 open source? Here is living with open source. And let's just quote this here properly, not that I tell you wrong figures. I opened the PDF that is linked there and I could confirm this figures the other day. By the way, you see how snappy this is here. So much to the amazing Intel performance in ultra low voltage tablets. Totally amazing, apparently, as you can see. And at least our hardware encode has precedence here, GPU cycle wise. Where is our, here even the comments? Where are, hello, comments? Do we have comments? Somehow comments not loading, or where are the comments? Or they are loading so slowly that where are even the comments somehow? Is this some new view or up next? Hello, wanted to see my own comments though. Anyway, you can find this in the comments of that video. If you are interested in more details, I think it was 1.4 million, which as much as he deserves to earn a good living, but 1.4 million a year is also a little bit crazy. I would wish they would spread this a little bit more evenly. When I see a salary of 1.4 million for someone who is mostly shouting, and by the way, in my opinion, Linus Torvalds is not as much credit as is due. For a decade or two already, he is not developing so much. He is mostly sorting patches, which is of course also work. Not that this is not work, but it's not like developing the most state-of-the-art code. Basically, each student theoretically could sort patches and shout at each other when they don't like the patches, as Linus Torvalds is known for being slightly rude. And I agree that this is a little bit unnecessarily too rude, and for a salary of donations in the ballpark of 1.4 million or what this was, it's a little bit unfriendly, and I wish more of the community. So I'm now even less motivated after I read this. Such people who sort patches get this kind of donations, and when I sit weekend after weekend trying to figure out Realtek headphone bugs for companies who sell laptops and stuff and studio equipment, not aided cards not working properly, and sending these patches in for free, and other people get such a salary, then yeah, maybe I rather YouTube live stream then and write my own microkernel. And yeah, as usual, leave me in the comments below what you think. So next cloud news, amazing MySpace has reportedly lost all photos, videos and songs uploaded over 12 years due to data corruption during a server migration. I have included this news not because it's MySpace, because who's using MySpace, right? But as an example of cloud stuff going wrong. This can happen the same for all your social stuff. We have seen in the previous live stream today the 150 failed and killed Google projects, how fast social stuff can go away, social cloud services and products being killed, purchased and cancelled and so on. And when you rely on your private family and holiday pictures to be hosted on some cloud service, of course nowadays it's rather Instagram and Facebook or whatever, and Twitter, and mind you, all of them can go away. Data can get lost in some data migration, corruption, backup failure, you name it. Would be interesting to hear what you think about this. Somehow, in general, this is mostly theming in here on my impression that we are going a little bit of a wrong route here, having everything in the cloud and then the services go away and companies sell you data. Not really sure if that is the most amazing development. What I've seen with friends and family, most people don't have backups of their photos. They realize that they have it in Facebook and Instagram, and if they get a new iPhone, they often don't even bother to update and restore. They just continue with an empty phone or something like this, and then after a decade or two, I have the feeling many people will end up without any memories because all their photos are lost in closed, killed and abandoned cloud services. But again, really curious what you think about this. I just compile here our news over the week and see what we can make out of this. And as we have talked so often already over RISC-V news, finally some more amazing news. SiFive rolls out RISC-V High 1 Rev-B development platform for only $49. Probably pre-tax as so often. And of course this is not to be confused, as written here also in the news on Phoronix of all sites, with the High-5 Unleash, which I discussed in another live stream for other recurring and subscribers. $999 of course is way too high. Of course they can only charge $999 because this is the first silicon, and all the fans and fanboys of RISC-V and open source hardware jump onto this bandwagon. I guess mostly maybe companies, because most private people would maybe not spend $999 for an underperforming board. Because mind you, this $999 is also for a board without amazing performance and such. This is mostly only because it is the first generation, the first revision of silicon there for RISC-V. The difference here, why is the price difference so high? This board here is more of an Arduino. This is a 200 megahertz or so microcontroller core. I think it's written here somewhere. Here's 320 megahertz plus. And this here, and also, so this board here, this revision B thing, is lacking in memory management unit, so you cannot run Linux on it, at least not easily. Only if you can run Linux, then only the MMU-less microcontroller version of Linux. And maybe not even this, because I think the board does not have so much memory and ROM and such, and flash and storage. So this is more meant probably for operating system, or if then only very small shim of an operating system and not Linux. For this you need an MMU, and for this you currently need the first Unleashed board here for a whopping nearly $1,000, because this board not only has, I think, multi-core and more, this has 1 point something gigahertz as far as I remember, but most of all it has a memory management unit that you normally need for the regular version of Linux. This is where the price difference comes from. But if you want some RISC-V for some initial fun, then you can get this $49 revision B for cheap. Of course, this is not, as you see here, this is just some Arduino style board with I2C UART and some, this is just some power changes there, 3.3 volt always on power domain with some upgraded debugging stuff specification, and 32-bit complex with a single core. And this is maybe how it looks, I guess so. And as usual, 4 megabyte NOR flash. And actually, is this upgraded USB debug? Does this have actually USB debug? Sounds like maybe like this. But as you see, microcontroller stuff for low performance, low end Internet of Things, your local tinkering stuff. And SiFive boards and two comments from the audience. Danny writes 1 gigabit port flash storage and ROM, probably nice internet router. Which board do you mean, 2 gig port flash? But this is probably not this board, right? Because this doesn't have Ethernet, I guess, on board. But yeah, so this is, but again, people comment there. I think people commented there in the 9 comments, I guess, as far as I remember, people commented there that it's still expensive for what it is. That might be true. I think maybe you get competitive stuff with ARM for just 29 or so, which is certainly not so much of a difference, of course, with this $49 US. Supports this open source RISC-V here and this company behind this, so you can't compare this directly, but this price is of course reasonable. This SiFive Unleashed I would also purchase myself personally. If this Unleashed thing would not be 999, I would maybe shed out 300 or so, maximum for sure 500, but even for 500 it's still a little bit expensive for what it is. 999 is certainly a racking in a premium for all our initial development first Founders Edition kind of price, just that you be warned. But if you are a total fan of this, of course, go for it. Not that you stop buying this due to my negative comments here, just that I personally find this price a little bit steep. But as usual, leave us in the comments below what you think about this. Next is finally some real programming stuff here. And you know we love programming, C, C++, you name it. And Google open sourced here some Sandboxed API, automatically generate sandboxes for C and C++ libraries, which sounds nice. I mostly included this here, not for the Google advertisement, as nothing here is a paid advertisement, but mostly because it was on some major news sites and I found it newsworthy. What this does is what you normally would want to do for higher security, like maybe a PDF viewer. You would want to sandbox your PDF core because PDF is quite complex, just to name here an example. And what this does, if you do this manually, you would need to use all the low-level APIs to load your library code in such a way that it is running separated from maybe your UI code and such in a sandbox, so your PDF code with malicious PDFs cannot break out and overwrite files on your local file system and stuff, fun stuff like this. And what this is providing, as far as I've heard and read in the news, is to automatically generate such kind of sandboxed API. So you probably write here some kind of template-based programming description here of some variable hierarchy system, transparently forwarding calls using some custom RPC, remote procedure call layer, to the real library running inside a sandboxed environment. And certainly nice to have this, see this open source stuff certainly can help making things more secure in the desktop world. Not really, I have not tried this, so if you tried this, leave us in the comments below what you think about this. Do you think this is viable, is nice, or if it's too huge, no idea. Maybe leave us in the comments below what you think if you take a look into this. But in general, always nice to see open source code. Comments in the audience, Dave writes, the Amiga X5000 PowerPC, some boards etc are similar, is expensive for very little performance, which is a shame. And as an Amigan, there are no cheap hardware for Amiga similar to the RISC-V. If this Amiga X500, I saw one that I really would like to have, but actually, evil as I am, I would not run Amiga stuff on it. There was one board, maybe it was this X5000, that was using the power efficient CPUs. One problem with this power efficient CPUs, because I really would have loved to have this power efficient CPUs. Power efficient is a PowerPC core developed by PA-SEMI, high performance, low power core. It is already a decade old actually, but there you see this stuff is already a decade old. So do you really want to use something a decade old? But as you know, I like to collect outstanding hardware, and the PA-SEMI company was purchased by Apple, and they have abandoned the PowerPC stuff a decade ago, and they used this technology and the people to design their Apple A series of CPUs. So the power efficient technology apparently lives on in part of this Apple A series SoCs system on a chip there in these iPhones and iPads, and maybe soon Macs near you. But this is why I would have wanted this Apparently this Amiga company, not sure if it was X5000, maybe it was, maybe another. Can't remember all these numeric models. But if it was this, the problem is they wrote they have some stock. So because the problem is they can't even buy new stock of this power efficient CPU. So apparently they purchased at one time some 1,000 or 10,000, I don't know how many CPUs of this power efficient CPU, and they can never probably get new ones, which is also a shame, obviously. And when we already talk about this, I saw on Phoronix, but now I need to be careful, but probably I will not get it myself. While this is maybe loading, we come back to this in a second, and let's continue with the news here. By the way, what is this here? NGINX, this is the same news. Hello, can we load? I think we are mostly done after we rushed through a little bit through this news here. And as I have here one last news that is not directly IT related, but until we can get, and also just breaking news, more AMD FreeSync patches likely coming to Linux 5.2. Yay, we probably do freezing stuff here on this channel also soon. So if you want Linux FreeSync stuff, then don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and spread the word in whatever means you like. And what I wanted to point out here, as we already talked, PowerPC is on Phoronix was in news here. This one, by the way, they see as much as I applaud open source websites, this Phoronix is slightly a little bit funny with all the typos and misinformation, because they have still not fixed the headline. This headline is wrong. It is, they write here 10 core. It's not a 10 core, it's an 8 core. But if you want to get cheap PowerPC now, especially if you probably are in Europe or so, you can get this board here for $300 US. And this is, as usual, not a paid advertisement. This is an 8 core. I really wonder, it was mentioned in the comments below that this is a typo and they still have not fixed the headline. I really wonder why. And so this is a server thing. Maybe I order one if they still have it on sale. It's a Tian PowerPC Power 8, and it's of course not amazing performance as you see. So this is a regular 2U server thing, and if you want such a PowerPC thing for cheap, then probably the time to get is now. But be warned, and as usual, this is neither a recommendation nor a paid advertisement. However, be warned that the performance is not the most outstanding. However, it is probably higher than this Amiga board, I would assume. And you can open this benchmarks here yourself. As you see, my ultra low voltage Intel Core i7 is overloaded here. I'm already happy that we barely stream out 30 frames per second, although our web is not loading because Intel power, certainly not the most amazing. Reminds me I probably need to get an AMD ThinkPad for real sometime soon, for more snappy performance and actually loading websites. And yeah, if we load this performance data here sometime soon, then you will see that the performance is not amazing compared to latest AMD Zen offerings, or even slower Intel Xeon stuff. And what is here? Can we load this somehow? Here you see amazing performance here. So don't get Microsoft Surfaces, don't get Intel ultra low voltage cores for doing real work. I can already, from memory, as long as this a web page is slowing down your browser, what would you like to do here? No shit, Sherlock. Probably wait, not even sure which of these websites. So the news of this I recollect here from this Indian Express, from all news websites, somehow collected somewhere on the interwebs. And somehow this was preloaded. I really wonder why Firefox flushed this rendered website. Some amazing web tech of nowadays. So as cost skyrockets, more US cities stop recycling. Here was an article. If this loads, maybe it loads. By the way, I really wonder, oh, this is NGINX, we don't really need this website. Let's close this and hope this eventually loads here. So this article that you can from the URL load yourself if you want, while we stare on a blank page and wait for amazing Firefox and Intel ULV performance to load this. So this article was quoting that, and this I included this because of, obviously it's not directly IT related news, but I wanted to close this week's news session with this because you probably realized, for the recurring viewers, we try to influence the world here to become a better place, and certainly we need more recycling, more environmental friendly stuff all over the place. The least thing we need to do with global environmental destruction is less recycling, and it's really a shame. I personally guess I saw in other news already quite some months ago related to this that China stopped importing a lot of trash and rubbish. So apparently China previously imported tons of plastic trash to recycle, and apparently China also doesn't want so much trash anymore. Besides, we ship, probably all of you know this already, or you want to Google and read news yourself, that we, the first world countries, ship a lot of e-waste to third world countries, although I really hate this name, to developing countries in Africa and such, where kids burn this e-waste to extract copper from the burned PCBs and CRTs and displays, and scrap metal out the leftovers there out of the burned stuff, certainly completely destroying their health and future and their local environment. A complete shame, completely not supporting this kind of stuff. You certainly want to pay attention out of this, and I hope you contribute. I also try to, you see, I keep all my amazing SGI stuff quite some time, and you see amazing web performance we have here. I not only keep my PCs quite a while and use my iPhones here for 4 years, and aging Microsoft Surfaces, although they are barely worth anything for quite a decade or two. And you might also want to do this. Also saves you money, not only for the environment, certainly saves you a ton of money if you don't buy a new PC and iPhone or Samsung Android smartphone each and every year. And it certainly, as long as you keep using this, it saves you money and saves the environment. And it is of course ridiculous that the whole world exported so much trash and plastic waste to China that now we have US cities stopping recycling. And we have the same in Germany. I've not yet Googled news sources for this, but I heard from people that in Germany we are of course relatively good at the recycling. We sort a lot of stuff also in private households, so we have all the recycling bins there at home for plastic packages, paper, and biological stuff, and remaining waste. And I heard already, not sure if that is true, I probably should research this more, and this is why we do this YouTube, to research more stuff and influence more stuff. By the way, I hope we are still live streaming. Are we even still live streaming? Actually, this is funny, my chat is not updating here so much to whatever we have done here to this is crazy. Let's see if my iPhone updates. The amazement of modern web technology and performance. So I wanted to say that even in Germany, although we sort all kinds of stuff in extreme ways, I heard that even in Germany we at the end burn carefully sorted plastic waste. We burn in electric power plants, burning plastic and similar stuff. So all the sorted stuff may end up in electric power plants, and instead of being recycled, which is also really a shame, and probably something you should keep in mind and maybe ask your local politicians to do better. Let's see if we can stop all this Firefox browsing stuff. Not really sure if we still have something updating here, because this Firefox browser is totally busted, as you can see. I really wonder if we stream this kind of kill client here. So with this, thanks God, we can be thankful that our Firefox survived as far as it did here. OBS is indicating 0 drop frames. Wonder if that is true. Let's see if Firefox comes back to give you a last quick look. By the way, why is this OBS 001? I mean, I know I run a git snapshot, but I did not really expect it to indicate OBS 001. Hey, Firefox is coming back with something. Let's see if we can, but as you can see, yeah, so much to that. wanted to stream on another machine, but what are we even now? This is Broadcom, this is older tabs. You see, I wanted to also recompile that. Let's see if we can get this PowerPC loaded before we end the stream. I can try to take a look on the comments in the audience, questions and answers if you have any. Hey, we have something, questions in the audience. x86 CPUs are fast enough now that even my old Q6600 machine when running Linux is good enough for 80% of what I like to do for work, says Dave. Yes, I agree, and also usually I can even work on this Microsoft Surface, only the hardware encode is killing it here. I'm really actually surprised that the thermal design power is apparently that low that I can't even surf the web here with, because the CPU load is not that high with all the encoders going on the hardware encode side of the Intel GPU. And maybe some JavaScript got stuck there, the wonders of modern web and JavaScript stuff. Danny writes, it's running all Sandy Bridge 8 cause he's not, it's so he is running all Sandy Bridge 8 coaxions for daily use, and also in my routing server. Yeah, you should keep in mind that of course running this stuff all day long might not be the most energy efficient, but I certainly need something else. It's really a pity that people try to fight windmills here with me on Twitter and such with not recommending Apple stuff, because you see I have a quad core with hyper-threading, so 8 theoretically threads in there, and I stream from this one here just because not only does this Apple thing have proprietary Broadcom wireless where the in-kernel stuff does not support this AC stuff. Also really wonder why this still is not reverse engineered, but certainly these people have, like me, something better to do. And also microphone input certainly would not have been fun to speak into the internal microphone with the fans running there. I hope the audio of this live stream is good enough. So finally we have loaded here something, so apparently some JavaScript got stuck earlier. You see here, this is, by the way, here they write 8 core, that is what I meant. They have here still not fixed the headline, so what is his name? Something with M, is it listed here? Michael or something, or whatever it was. Maybe fix your headline, because headline of 10 core tie-in does not really cut it if you write yourself 8 core here. I think it's 8 core. So you see this is way worse performance here. In seconds less is better. Okay, OpenMP, you never know how optimized this is, but you see the Power 8 I recommended earlier. Maybe I get it, maybe not. It's not, because the problem is if I buy here, if I shed out $300 for some YouTube videos of server builds, I do not get this money back in. It's not the best return of investment, and I have quite some boxes, servers, desktops, you name it. So it's probably not the best return of investment for myself, for my own money spent. Not really sure if I want to get it. Also, I think they wrote here the fans are super loud, so if you want to run it more often, then you probably, he had there some ghetto style quiet fan on top of this. Not really sure if this is here some thermal throttling or whatever this is, because the default fans were super loud or something. But nonetheless, if you want to have a more modern PowerPC, I would guess it certainly must be way faster than my G5, I would expect. So we could also theoretically try to load the website if we get as far as this. The other website was Indian Post. If we want to try, here, let's try if we can still load this here to have this website really shown with the recycling stuff. And by the way, not only do I try to contribute in some meaningful ways, I even contribute in small ways on the way to the office. If there is trash flying around, I usually try to pick it up, although my wife doesn't like it, but I don't have too much of a problem. My wife is always worried how dirty it is, but if there is some stuff flying around, then like plastic and such also can look nice in Berlin. Doesn't need to be cluttered all over with the tourists coming, throwing their Starbucks coffee cup all over and stuff like this. And yeah, by the way, maybe it is less than 269 euro. And the other day I opened this, it was free shipping, so I'll probably can relax the audience here is still not too large to order all of them immediately, just in case. There's even the links. This is what I don't like here on this modern websites. You want to click on the link here. By the way, now it's not scrolling. Hello Firefox. Can we scroll? There's even the link to purchase it. I clicked it the other day. Just that right now. So much to that to check if it's still in stock or not. I think there was over 50 in stock, or I don't know what was written there the other day when I checked it. Here for our writing, here is more than, he wrote more than 10 units left at 269 euros a piece. I think, yeah, here you see, here's even 49, so I'm not sure if they only sold one since yesterday or the day before yesterday. So you see, as you see, the performance not the most amazing. I'm not yet really sure. Maybe leave me in the comments below if you want me to buy one here for the YouTube review. Also, it is empty, so I guess maybe it doesn't come with this hard drive trace. Maybe if you are unlucky, not really sure. Is it written here? So it has, going over this, it's 2U rack and 12 times hard drive front side. Actually, wait a second, here they write 10 core. What nonsense is this? So here they write 10 core, but he wrote 8 core. Somehow this doesn't make sense. So I'm only tempted, so I have a lot of stuff. Actually, I have more than enough. It's not really what I need. I would only get this to have really faster power PC, and because this would probably most likely be my fastest power PC. Maybe I would heavily mod it to have to run silent or something. It has 4 times Ethernet, it has some USB, even USB 3 apparently, serial connection, some old-fashioned VGA, I think, over this unfortunate AST or something, this low performance server side crappy barely working VGA shit, so you probably don't want to use this as a desktop. I guess it had one PCIe slot, maybe, if I recall correctly. Is it written here? It has 2, so it has redundant power supply, 2 times 750 watts, which is nice, but it weighs 21 kilograms, so similar to the Octane or Hewlett-Packard HPPA RISC. And I only wonder, so without front cover, which is a little bit meh, and I wonder which probably standard tie-in hard drive slots there, because I really wonder a little bit where you get the matching hard drive slots in. So yeah, leave me in the comments below what you think about this. Certainly not the highest performance, but maybe not the worst for the price. Actually, by the way, it has remote management, one-time EPMI. And yeah, leave me in the comments below if you want me to order this. Then certainly it doesn't waste your money, only my money. Maybe we can do some YouTube content with it. As I said, certainly not the highest performance, but I would expect it to be way faster than my aging dual core D5. So here still, yeah, maybe not sure. And as the site certainly loaded, we can finally scroll over this, just the recycling site I showed you earlier. And I'm a huge fan of keeping our planet in an state which increasingly becomes more difficult for the next generations to still have a planet that is not a total hell. And yeah, burning hell with non-recycled e-waste and plastic waste flying all over the place. Maybe leave us in the comments below what you think about this. This is really a shame that they stop recycling, but there you see, if you outsource, this is similar to cloud. You outsource your plastic recycling to China, then after a decade they say, you know what, you can keep your plastic recycling waste for yourself now, and then a whole country, the quotes leading, apparently, allegedly, maybe a little bit first world country cannot even do recycling anymore because recycling overload. Yeah, really set to close this news here. By the way, why do they write here by New York Times? Was it originating in the New York Times apparently? Maybe. What is there? This, I saw that transferring data from AliExpress. Seriously, what the heck? And why is this loading now? Some overview. I thought this goes directly to the New York Times. Anyway, you get the idea, the wonders of modern web. I hope you enjoyed our brief and fast IT news and related stuff summary. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. It certainly is nice to have some chat here. And XGreenSums writes performance price comparison is better with that IBM server. What exactly do you mean? Do you mean compared to the Intel and AMD Xeons and Ryzens in the Phoronix benchmark? Maybe you mean, I guess, maybe you want to add a further comment to this if you like. And yet it's certainly dirt cheap, not sure to a G5 performance comparison is better to that IBM server to a G5. Yeah, well, so you certainly can get a G5 used on eBay for dirt cheap now, maybe less than $100 or so, I would expect. I have mine firsthand. It's our company G5. We brought it new 15 years ago, or when this was, or 13 years ago, 14 years ago. And yes, this is also higher performance. Certainly, I would expect this Power 8, I would expect to be 4 times or so faster than or maybe even 5 times, 6, 7 times. As I said, also this thing, by the way, this thing might be Little Endian, I guess, which I don't really like Little Endian. I like Big Endian. By the way, leave us in the comments below with if you prefer Little or Big Endian. By the way, as usual, by the way, welcome Gregor, Anders. And yeah, that is what I expected from recent IBM tech. It would also be interesting to, I'm by the way not sure if you can switch it to, okay, no, he writes, or they write as far as they know. I'm by the way wondering if you can do this on a per process basis, maybe not. And Middle Indian, what do you mean with you are for? You are for Middle Indian? No, we are not supporting Middle Indian. This is a no-go here. Not supporting. We are not supporting nibbles, warped Indian nonsense. Yes, I understood your joke, but I'm making a joke there. Do you know that there are really kind of Middle Indian things where they have this this nibbles in the or not nibbles, this byte in the middle swap for some crazy reasons. Yeah, some PDP-11 or some other nonsense had some stuff like this. Also some new characters and coding would be nice. Yeah, maybe coding with emoji or something, I guess, for like an evil red face for failed return function values, things. So yeah, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this. As usual, we have the most people in the audience and live chat when we want to close here this live stream. We could hang out here in a couple of more minutes, just not to keep this stream too long. And this is not, yeah. Also, don't forget that we have a second channel where we potentially will live stream more random stuff in the future. Just need to have more than 100 subscribers there to have there a nice name and some other benefits, whatever that was. Thank you very much to all of you who subscribed already. Really nice to see this growing. As you can see, you can do desktop Linux, and as you have seen with my failed live streams last night and earlier today on macOS, don't try using macOS for any seriously, because peak bugs, even an aging Surface Pro 3 with Intel ultra low voltage undercooled crap from yesteryear, is performing better in desktop Linux, even compiled from vanilla source like this, than peakbugs plugged macOS, surprising as it is. And we have more comments in the audience from XGreenSums. G5 goes for more than 100. Wow. Here in Germany. Oh, you're also in Germany. Then greetings to there. Getting more and more expensive, same like iBooks and PowerBooks. Yeah, okay. Then it's good that I kept it, and I will probably try to keep it. But yeah, price performance, maybe even price per performance is better than Intel and AMD stuff, because this kind of board is rather low price for what it is. I wonder if I can go back. Actually, no, I can't go back, apparently, because I closed it already. Let's see if we find it leaking our history here of all our news chat. Where is even the site? Here it is. I'm probably not including memory, I guess, at that price point. Also probably selling out old stock. And as you already write so many comments about this, what do you think about this? And yeah, maybe I should actually get this to support T2 on IBM Power stuff, also Little Indian. I probably did not have Little Indian Power PC yet. I would probably expect this to be, yeah, non-32 slots of DDR2. I wonder, do I have spare? I probably don't even have spare DDR2 in stock, I guess, unless I take it out from some other running. Funny, the seller is German too. I saw the server a day ago. Yeah, this is, I wonder if maybe they had a project and they're selling some leftovers, or this stuff is not selling. But actually this is, which kind of, so this is actually pure spar. By the way, not a paid advertisement, no affiliates with this whatsoever. This telephone number is North Germany and pure spar, pure spar, what the heck? Professional is our signature. Sports Lab, whatever it is, no idea, never heard about them. You think it needs to be ECC here? Maybe, no idea, maybe not. Whatever. So yeah, in the long term, theoretically, I should get it if I would want a low price IBM Power PC like server thing, just to test probably boot support there with grub2 and whatnot. And even if they give it away for free, it'd be very hard for them to sell them. Even if they give them away for free, the thing is more probably loud as hell. Yes, that is what Michael, or what his name is there at Phoronix, wrote there, I think. So if I would get this, I would not want to run this in the office. Probably would need to mod this myself to cool quieter, which would also be fun, but whatever. But all servers, actually, to be fair, all servers are loud. And we have still, it's amazing that we still have 8 people in the live chat here. So, yeah, it's of course, I slept a year next to such a thing. What do you mean you slept a year next to such a thing? Very loud with the stock Delta fans. So what is funny, I actually lived a year, I also lived, no, I didn't. So what I once had a loaner from Sun Microsystems when we were one of the few people who did Sun Spark. And so we had a loaner unit when they had this T2 CPU. And by the way, maybe leave in the comments below why you slept a year next to a blade. Was it your only living room, or why did you do this? So what I did, we got this loaner server here for only some 4 or 6 weeks or something. The Sun, this is why it's also noted here. So this is exactly the one we had. Quite some, this is actually probably before I started exact code in 2004 or something like that, 2004, 2003 or whenever that was decent. And this thing was also super loud, obviously. And in retrospect, I should probably have, I did not even record the CPU info. Also, what was fun was fixing, so even this was massive actually, okay, not that massive only, oh wait a second, 24, so actually maybe this was 4 threads of execution, so this was 24 threads or 32, so highly multi-threaded with this hyper-threading, super loud this bloody thing. And what I did, I put this in my wardrobe because obviously my student apartment was not that big, and I literally put this into my wardrobe and closed the door to have some halfway decent sound level. And yeah, even then it was certainly not amazing. And as I said already, when we did Rock Linux a decade or 2 ago, because I was compiling, obviously initially I had my trusty IDT WinChip 200 that I still use, or actually 240 that we still use for vintage videos. And as I said in multiple streams, videos and live streams here already, when I did the T2 stuff or Rock Linux back in the day, I had at later days, you know, my UltraSpark was slow. It was a 270 megahertz UltraSpark that was building Linux forever. And then later I had the 600 megahertz slot A Athlon, AMD Athlon, and that one was quite nice then obviously to build Rock Linux. But even then with X and Firefox and maybe OpenOffice, I'm not even sure how long OpenOffice compiled. So was it 10 hours or probably how long did Firefox compile back in the day? Anyway, maybe all of KDE compiled an hour or 1.5 or something. So the total compile time was usually probably half a week or something. And I said so often already, to get eventually done with this, I had this on beep, infinite loop beep, PC speaker, loud craziness on build error. So I would get up in the night at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fix the build error, patch whatever was necessary, and get back to bed. Needless to say, I was sometimes a little bit tired for university after such all-nighters with only some hours of sleep in between some build errors. But this is the kind of stuff you do unpaid for open source stuff. And this is why we ended up YouTubing here, YouTube streaming for getting some $3 a day. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. I have already another, the next weeks will be some old video content from my SD card, because I need to free my SD cards. They are overloaded with old video snippets, and tomorrow's scheduled, or either tomorrow or day after tomorrow scheduled video is video content from a year ago. Not that you wondered that you will find the next weeks or so sometimes old content, because I simply don't want to delete it. And I just did not post it earlier because I wasn't 100% satisfied, didn't find it that important and not that most amazing. But in retrospect, I should have posted it, and it is more interesting than not interesting. So I will post it instead of deleting it. I hope you enjoyed anyway. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this news site. As usual, leave us in the comments what you think, what you like and dislike, where you agree or not agree, and what you think we can do better, or if everything is amazing and we just need to continue doing it for more subscribers to join. And with this, probably time to wish you a good night and day, and I hope to see you soon for all the next live streams and AAA video content to come.